All right, we're going to start here by going over our itinerary and our agenda. On our agenda today, we're going to learn to identify and evaluate character traits in a text, and then we're going to further our comprehension through our debate and our discussion. We're going to start with a quick write. We're going to move on to a mini lesson. We're going to use Bloom's taxonomy to review our character traits from yesterday. Today, our essential question for reading is how does... The objective of the lesson today was for students to learn to provide evidence to support their speaking and their writing, specifically in choosing the best evidence to support any of the answers they give. Today, we're going to move on to our rotations. For writing, we're going to be doing providing evidence using literature, and that's at the work table. We're going to talk about doing reciprocal teaching. While you're doing reciprocal teaching, I want you to focus on providing evidence when you answer questions to other people. And then we're going to have our debate and our discussions at the second work table. So to begin today, I want you all in your notebooks to write one character trait from King Midas. I want you to try to use evidence and make sure it's in a complete sentence. In the whole group setting, I introduced the initial skill first, and for today, that was providing evidence. Who would like to share one of the character traits they came up with and some evidence that they have for it? I want you to remember to use those skills that we learned yesterday about character traits. Kyle, go ahead.
King Midas was thoughtful because at the end of the story, he restored his daughter after turning her into gold.
Good. So what we're going to focus on today is providing not only evidence, but the best evidence. What do you think you're going to use to provide the best evidence? Rebecca.
I think you use evaluating to judge about what evidence you're going to pick for that person.
Today, I use the activator to summarize the skill from yesterday, which asked them to talk about character traits, but then it tied in the new skill of providing evidence. Okay, everybody focus back up here. You guys can get started now at your centers, and I'm going to ring the bell again when you have 5 more minutes, okay? Go ahead. Today we're going to focus on choosing the right main idea and choosing the right evidence to support that main idea, especially when you're making a point like in a debate. The objective at the teaching table was that all students would be able to provide evidence to support their answer, that they would know how to select that evidence within a text, and that they would be able to use that appropriately to back up some of their responses. What does it mean to categorize something? Nick.
To put it in a place.
To put it in a place. And how do you put those things in a place when you're categorizing? Ricky.
Something that they both have in common.
When you organize your writing or your speaking, you're doing the same thing. You're categorizing what you have and you're putting it into groups that make sense. With the Tier 1 group of instruction, I had them evaluate different texts and the fairy tales that we were using so that they could provide the best evidence. What comes to mind when you think about King Midas and the question, how can actions have unexpected consequences? Raymond.
He couldn't eat because every time he touched things, the solids or the materials turned into gold.
He couldn't eat. Good. What category do these fall into? Kiana.
Unexpected.
These are unexpected what?
Consequences.
These were things that he didn't think about, and they were unexpected. So maybe another category we could talk about is expected. So when you're working on your debates and when you're working on writing your stories, you need to have categories in mind. When you start writing, you need to say, what am I going to write about? What are my categories in mind? And that's how you begin. So I let the students try out using that new skill in the beginning, and I give them a very brief introduction. And then what I do is I incorporate that skill throughout every other center. So in writing, their focus today was to provide evidence to support their answers. So in persuasive writing and speaking, you're trying to persuade the reader to do something. You need evidence, examples, research, and a passion or a sense of urgency. And what really helps with that passion and a sense of urgency is word choice. And we've worked on word choice before. What does that mean? Nick.
You use a better variety of words and spice up your words.
Good. In King Midas, we talked a lot about lying. And we said a lot that he loved his daughter. We said a lot that he had the golden touch, okay? And we talked a lot about a king. And when you guys were arguing, you kept using the word king. So what we do with this activity is you take a word, king, and now what's another noun you could call a king?
A ruler.
A ruler, good. Now turn to your partner and come up with 2 adjectives that you could use to describe them.
Mean king, I don't know.
sometimes maybe kind.
Okay, why don't you share some of them with me? Raymond, can you share one of your adjectives with me?
I don't know one yet. I'm still thinking.
Okay, Haley, can you share an adjective with Raymond?
Kind.
Kind?
So what's another word for kind that you could come up with your own adjective?
Like caring?
Caring, good. Now take two adjectives and you pair it with one noun. A bossy, selfish ruler. And now instead of using king so many times in your speaking and writing, you replace it with one of these, okay? And that'll help you to add some word choice to your writing as well. Any questions before you guys move? No? Okay. Once upon a time, there was a little village girl, the prettiest that had ever. Part of the management piece is the transitioning of students from group to group. What I wanted to do was find a way that students could actually be working while they were transitioning to the next center. So I started with some poetry for fun, and when the students were listening, I started asking them questions to make sure that they were actually listening. And I found that it improves their listening skills. What element of a fairy tale does this small passage have in it? Rebecca.
Most fairy tales start with once upon a time.
That piece keeps them actively engaged from the beginning of the literacy block to the end, even when they're switching from group to group. We're going to start by playing a little game. The game we're going to play is called Grab Bag. I'm going to first demonstrate it to you, and then you're going to get a chance to try. With my Tier 3 instruction, I started a little differently. I have a stapler. I have a stapler that is pink and sparkly. I have a stapler that is pink and sparkly, and it's used for putting my papers together. See how I moved from here to here, but I kept it as one fluid sentence? Who thinks that they can do that? Erica, why don't you try with a pencil?
I have a pencil. I have a pencil that is yellow and pink. I have a pencil that is yellow and pink, and I used to write.
Perfect. So you have a pencil that is yellow and pink and you used to write. They talked about elaborating details and how to form those sentences so that they could start at the beginning where they needed that extra push and that extra introduction of instructions. I want you to think about these sentences because this is important when we're talking about our evidence. It's important for how you write your sentences, and it's also important that your sentences are stronger. So when we add details to our sentences, it strengthens our argument. So when we're having our debates, it's really important that we have very, very strong details in there, okay? I heard somebody say King Midas made a bad choice. What could we do to move it this way? What details could you add to get it over to this side? Noelle.
He made a bad choice because when he got the gold touch, he touched everything and he touched his daughter. So his daughter turned into gold.
Good. Do you see how this sentence is stronger than that sentence? What makes this sentence better than this? Dana, what do you think?
Because you're telling more details about what happened.
Good. Visualize this game. Visualize yourself coming up with a sentence, stepping from I have to it looks like to its purposes. And when you have walked through all three of these steps, that's when you have the best sentence. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pose a question to you. I'm going to ask you, is it ever okay to lie? And I'm going to first give you a minute to think about it to yourself. But I want you to visually, in your head, walk through these three steps. And when you give me a sentence, I want it to be all the way over here. So take a minute and think about it. Then once you think about it, tell your partner, and then you're going to share it with me. So 3 steps.
Because you lie to your mom and you say you didn't do it, she'll probably find out. And if your birthday's coming up, she'll just probably not get you anything.
Claudemir, you had a really good one I heard you talking about. What was your example about lying?
Lying, if you lie, you might lose a friend because you might hurt their feelings.
Good. So what Claudemir is saying is that when you lie, you could hurt somebody and you could lose their friendship. That sentence helps us get over to here because you're giving a specific example of the effect that it's going to have on somebody. So over here is no, it's not okay to lie. To get all the way over here, he's giving an example. It's never okay to lie because you could lose a friendship. One time when I lied, my best friend was mad at me and something happened. So you're giving evidence and an example, okay? So the 3 things I want you to take away from this table today when you go over to start reciprocal teaching: providing evidence, walking through the 3 steps, and starting to think about some word choice. And we're really gonna get into word choice tomorrow, okay? Ready? The wolves. They don't believe me. They think I'm crazy. But let me tell you something. It's a wicked, wicked world out there, if you didn't already know. And that little Red Riding Hood, she's not as nice as you think she is. At the first workstation, I use that as a fluency center. So children are working on buddy reading and reciprocal teaching. They start off the block by buddy reading a text from one of the fluency bins, and the fluency bins are each coded by color.
Okay. He looked up at the ceiling behind me. I felt like an dum-bum. Okay, see you later. I went back upstairs to make myself a bowl of Cheerios with an inch of sugar on top.
They rejoin together at the group and they participate in reciprocal teaching. With reciprocal teaching, each child gets a turn to talk about the text, to ask questions, to summarize, to clarify, and to predict.
What do you guys predict about who is Miranda talking to while she is saying your note?
I think she's talking to us, like the author made it so she's talking to us, or she's talking to herself.
Do you think Miranda's mom handled the note good?
I don't really think so because she really didn't do anything about it.
She was just saying that when she said, oh, no, I don't think I left the door unlocked, I think I locked it. She wasn't even taking any precaution that someone could have came in.
Do we need anything clarified?
What's a knapsack?
And I think a knapsack is something that you bring to school every day, because in the story she kept saying, let me get my knapsack on page 58, and maybe that's like a backpack, but they call it that. Now let's go on to summarizers.
Okay, first let's take notes of what happened in it, and then we can put it into 10 words or less into 1 sentence. Okay, Miranda got a letter, the door was unlocked, Mom didn't do anything, no one took anything when they broke in, so.
Miranda found a note when she got home. It's too many.
What I want you to do now is close your materials. As our summarizer today, to close our whole lesson, what we're going to talk about is our ticket to leave. And our ticket to leave today is going to be writing 1 point from your debate. So the question we talked about was, how can actions have unexpected consequences? Is it ever okay to lie? And what we're going to do is, I'm going to ask each group to focus on the specific thing that I told them to today. The benefits of small group instruction in my classroom specifically have been miraculous. I'm able to give each child almost their own curriculum. So my red and yellow, when you're writing your answer to this question, I want you to have some good details in there. Think about those, walking through those 3 steps. My blue and green, I want you guys to really think about how you're choosing the best evidence. And I want you guys to all have together a statement that chooses not only some evidence, but the best evidence to answer that question. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes right now to get down on your paper and answer that question. And then we'll all share so you can hear what some of the other groups learned, and we can all have some strengths from there. There aren't students who are being held back. There aren't students who are being pushed so far that it's past their zone of development and they're not able to comprehend what we're doing. We put those students in groups so that I can choose lessons and topics and skills that meet their needs. Who from the yellow and red group can share with me one of the examples you came up with?
Fernando was lying to his parents where he was going, and his cousin got hurt.
And his cousin got hurt. So what they focused on was providing examples, either from their own lives or from literature, to use as evidence. So you all learned a different way to look at evidence today, and you'll all get to learn all of the pieces, but this was a nice way for everybody to share.